Hey everybody, so in today's video I'm going to show you how to do something like this. Click on the circle, reappears. Click on the circle, reappears. And what I'm going to show, so basically what we have here is a timer. The circle is, I'm going to show you the code in just a second and I'll share the code with you. But basically what's happening is here is when we click, we're changing the visibility of this object to be false, so it's no longer visible. And then after 3 seconds, we're setting the visibility to be true and it can reappear. And so I'm going to highlight in code. I'm going to give you another example of how this could be used. But I think like the possibilities of using this are pretty limitless because there are so many things where you might want to like have things happen after a certain amount of time. Maybe you want to have a game over thing. This is a good place for having a game over. You can start a timer at the beginning of as soon as your code is run, and then after 30 seconds, 40 seconds, however many seconds you want, the game will be over. So this is a good way of including some timing in a more kind of sophisticated using a new tool to get some timing done here. And I will show you another option for using this. My hope for this is that I can show you a tool and then you can use your creativity to power this to create whatever kind of thing you want to make. So let's look into the code a little bit here. Let's see, what do we have here? Actually, I'm going to run this just in case I need it later. But what do we have here? Yeah, just so a global variable. I made a Boolean called clickable that's set to being true to begin with. And then I have my timer, all global variables that I can see across the entire code. Basically, I'm going to initialize the timer here. And so I'm just kind of just setting up an object like I would anything else, and setting up an oval just like I would anything else. Now what I want to do is, so this is, nothing should be too tricky in here. I want to look down into here. This is where the meat of the code is going to happen. This part is just checking to see like, does my oval contain my click? And so I'm using the contains method here to check to see if an object contains a location. This is different from overlaps where we check to see if two objects are touching. Here we're going to check to see if the object just has a location within it, which can be also a powerful thing maybe for some of your code. And then what I want to do here is like, okay, if the oval contains my location, then I should set that oval to be false. And that's kind of how this thing is appearing. That's how it's disappearing. Pretty easy stuff. Like that's just making it visibility to be false. If you didn't know that method, now you know it. There you go. But the question is like, okay, how do I get it to come back? And that's this part. I'm going to say I'm going to send timer task as a new timer task, run. And so basically, and actually I think these two parts, these two sections are linked. Here I'm saying I'm defining a task that should happen. Here I'm setting up a schedule for like, when should I run that task? Like when should I run that task? After how long? And then what tasks should I run? So in here what I'm doing is after, and this is in milliseconds, so 2000 means 2000 divided by 1000, 2 seconds. So this is a 2-second delay. After a 2-second delay, we're going to run the timer task. And inside here, we're going to set the visibility to be true. And so what's going to happen here is like our code is going to run, and this is going to start. There's a whole deeper things about how computers work, but let's just say it's happening like in a separate part of our program. It's running a little timer that's kind of running along. And then after that timer hits 3 seconds, I guess, or 2 seconds in this case, it's going to revert. It's going to trigger this thing to be run. So I hope you can see how like this might be helpful in your games. I don't know. Like I think there's a ton of opportunities to use this anytime you want something to kind of happen after a certain amount of time, or maybe disappear, come back. Maybe I just changed its visibility, but maybe you could change its location. Like if it hits something, if something hits another thing, it's going to reset back to its starting point after 2 seconds. Something like that. Okay, and the other thing that I would share in here, let me run my other version of this. This is one option that I thought could be useful for you. And let me add in another option in here that I think would also be useful for you, and I can tell you kind of how I think this might be useful. In this one, I don't think I was using the clickable thing before. Here, I'm using a variable called clickable, and it's going to change the color to be random. But what I want to have happen, well, let me just show you what happens first of all. Oh, too big. If I click on it, it's going to change to a random color. But I want it so I can't, hopefully you can hear my mouse click. I'm clicking away and it's not clickable. Until, after a certain amount of time, it's going to become clickable again and then it'll change to a random color. So my mouse really isn't doing anything when I click on this because it's set to be like, well, you can't click this thing. So let me look into the code about seeing how that's happened. Seeing how that is happening. So I made clickable. Did I use that in both? No. So I said I had a Boolean variable called clickable, which is set to true to begin with. My object is clickable. And then I said, okay, if that thing's true, change the color to be a random color, and we're going to set the clickable thing to false. And then again, same exact structure as I did last time. I have a task that I want to run, and this is my scheduler for it. So I'm going to run this task, clicky, and it's going to happen after 3 seconds. And all this thing is going to do, so again, after 3 seconds, we're going to run clicky. What's clicky do? Well, clicky sets clickable to be true. So it was false, and then after 3 seconds, 3-second delay, it'll turn to be true. I think this is, in my mind, you could use this for making, like, you know, a lot of times in video games, like if you get hit by an enemy or take damage or something, like you become invincible for a couple seconds because they don't want you to get hit like 10 times in a row and immediately die. They want you to get hit once, lose health, and then you have a couple seconds to get your balance back or, you know, get ready to continue the game. So you could do something like that in here, like maybe change hittable, change clickable to hittable. To begin with, the hero is hittable. After they get hit, they're going to be invincible for a couple seconds until they become hittable again. Okay, so I hope that's, yeah, so that's hopefully another thing that you can incorporate in your games.